Yo, what's going on guys? HyperX here, and today I want to talk about Breath of the Wild 2. Any chance to talk about Zelda on the channel? You guys know I'm here. Zelda is, again, my #1 favorite franchise. I love this series and I love Breath of the Wild, but also I love Elden Ring. Elden Ring has been a fantastic game, and it's fair to say, any of you guys that have played both games, Elden Ring definitely took some learnings from Breath of the Wild with regards to the open world, with regards to how exploration works, and how, of course, lots of natural discovery is presented. Please do not interpret that as me saying Elden Ring copied Breath of the Wild. I'm not saying that, but all games learn from each other, and in the same way that Elden Ring has learned from Breath of the Wild, some things it did even better. My hopes are that Breath of the Wild 2 may take some learnings from Elden Ring. I am also, of course, very aware that Breath of the Wild 2 is well into development. At this stage, probably a lot of things can't necessarily change too much, but given they have, of course, pushed release into next year, there is definitely still time to add stuff, change stuff. So today I thought I would highlight some of the things that I really appreciated in Elden Ring that I hope maybe Breath of the Wild 2 could learn from. So if you guys do enjoy this, a like would be super appreciated. Comment down below. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Let me know if you agree. Let me know if you guys have got things that you would like to see in Breath of the Wild. What are some of your favorite features from Elden Ring? And of course, don't forget to keep it on the channel for plenty more videos from both games. So, in at #1, more mystery. Now, Breath of the Wild was already an incredible title. To be clear, I am biased. I love Zelda. Breath of the Wild is one of my all-time favourite games. Breath of the Wild and Ocarina of Time are literally the top. Nothing, in my opinion, beats them. So yes, I'm a little biased. However, Breath of the Wild still had a great sense of mystery. There were some incredible moments. I still think back to that moment I was running down the bridge and the dragon was flying through the sky and I didn't know what it was. Honestly, some of those moments are unmatched. However, Elden Ring then took that to an even grander scale. When I think about one of the most memorable moments was going down that lift and then seeing the underground city of Nokron, that was a sight to behold. And there was definitely a huge spectacle in Elden Ring when it comes to discovering huge, vast, sometimes even missable areas, thinking about the whole underground sections of the map that you could completely just never see. And when you do discover those places, it is incredible. So if Breath of the Wild 2 could perhaps expand on that even further, of course maintaining the charm of Zelda games with, of course, that fantastic color palette, the fantastic art style, but then working in some of that grand scale mystery, especially considering that we look to be going into the sky in Breath of the Wild 2 and potentially even underground with some of the sort of revealing dungeons and caverns, there is definitely plenty of scope for that level of wonder. In addition to that, longer branching quest lines. When I think about some of the things in Elden Ring, like say Ranni's questline, some of these were absolutely incredible. Now Zelda is of course no stranger to long branching quest lines. When you think about things like Ocarina of Time, we had the big Goron sword quest, which definitely did have many layers to it, but when you think about Breath of the Wild, a lot of the quests were definitely very much more so pick it up, go here, complete it, and then you get your initial payoff. But when you think about the multiple layers in Elden Ring, where some quests would take you multiple hours just sort of go through all the different phases, but then they result in some really big payoffs in the forms of legendary gear, weapons, stuff like that, I would honestly love to see that as an additional thing in Breath of the Wild 2. In addition to that, I would also like to see world-changing events or things that you can miss. Again, I go back to the example of Ranni's questline, but of course when you are working through this and you defeat Radahn, and there is that part where the meteor quite literally crashes down and reveals the entrance to the underground, things like this that just drastically reshape the world. Again, we've seen things like that in Zelda in the past. I again go back to Ocarina of Time as an example when you think about, of course, about changing the timeline, going to adulthood, and then some areas are drastically different, but I would like to sort of see that expanded even further when you factor in that Breath of the Wild is an open world map, having things that will drastically reshape elements of the world, things that you could even potentially miss. I know sometimes people find those things irritating because that then requires you go back and do a new game plus, but sometimes that is actually quite exciting in the same regard because then you have these discussions with friends, there might be things that you never experienced, they've just suddenly seen, and then you go there, you discover it, and it is just a completely new experience. So definitely would like to see some world-changing events that do drastically reshape the environment. Additionally, boss variety. Now again, this is something that Zelda has had for many, many years. Previous Zelda games had incredible boss variety. Breath of the Wild, a little bit less so when you think about sort of the different versions of Ganon, so to speak. Yes, they did have their own unique behaviors, but visually they were quite similar. Now I know this is definitely a unique thing to Breath of the Wild because previous Zelda games have all had thematically very distinct bosses with unique movesets, fantastic battles, so it is definitely not a unique thing to Elden Ring, but when you do think about it in the context of this video, Elden Ring has had some incredible boss fights, some really different boss fights, and things that of course require you to learn fundamentally fundamentally different mechanics. So that is definitely something I would like to see worked more into Breath of the Wild for just some more exciting gameplay experiences. In addition to that, legacy style dungeons. Thinking about things in Elden Ring, Stormvale Castle, Raya Lucaria Academy, working your way through the Citadel, some of the other castles. Honestly, these were incredible, and again, these are things that previous Zelda games have had in spades. Traditional style dungeons are things that we've basically known for the entire series, until of course Breath of the Wild came around, where we had the shrines, which were incredible. Some of the shrines were fantastic. The puzzle solving, the elements, the interaction, honestly, that stuff was unmatched. But if you then took that to a greater, grander scale, it had large-scale dungeons worked into Breath of the Wild 2 with, say, the shrine-style mechanics of puzzle solving, but on a grander scale, then that would make for an incredible experience. I do feel like, even though I love Breath of the Wild, they are definitely one of the things that I think I noticed the most as sort of being a glaring omission, because while, again, the shrines were fantastic and the Divine Beasts were fun, there is something that just doesn't quite match going to a thematically different dungeon in different areas, different biomes, and really experiencing that. And then finally, this last one, maybe a little bit of a contentious one, but multiplayer options. Now again, to be clear, I'm saying options here. I am not trying to shoehorn multiplayer into your Zelda game. I have played every Zelda game. I love playing them on my own. However, at the same time, I also really enjoyed Four Swords, and playing that with my homies was so much fun. So if they could work in some degree of multiplayer to maybe even just the open world in Breath of the Wild 2, that would be incredible. Imagine a Four Swords style multiplayer, whether it be just 4 different colored links, whether it be playing as different champions, having that, have the ability to interact with the world when you have the physics sandbox, all the different things you can interact with, could make for some truly incredible experiences. If you really want to go crazy, you could even work in some of the sort of Elden Ring style invasions, maybe not across the entire map, but maybe you could have sort of invasion zones, whereby then people could come in as like a Dark Link to mess with you. Quite what it would sort of yield in Breath of the Wild 2. It might not necessarily make too much sense, but there could of course be like a story reason worked into it. When you think about the Malice, how it's sort of taking over things, maybe there could be like a Malice Link that could work in. It could be kind of fun. Again, this would all be purely optional. I'm not trying to shoehorn this into the Zelda experience because I myself want to play through it on my own. However, I do think having options is never a bad thing. Anyway, for the time being, that is pretty much it. Those are a few things that I think would be nice to sort of see in Breath of the Wild 2 as learnings potentially from what Elden Ring did in their world. Again, if you guys have thoughts on your own on what you sort of think would be good to be added, definitely let us know. If you've missed some of our recent videos, be sure to check out one of these linked on screen, and don't forget to keep a look on the channel for plenty more videos on both.